I have a dream that one day Ying mains and Maldamba mains will live in a realm where they are not judged by their lack of boobs or boob plentifulness, but by the quality of their healing. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to State of the Realm. In this episode of State of the Realm, we'll be talking about Ying, the support champion in Paladins that has notoriously been receiving nerf after nerf over the subsequent patches and yet to receive a buff even in this latest patch of OB54, leaving pros and casual players alike scratching their heads as to why Ying is being ignored. Today we'll try and get down to the bottom of why Ying may have been ignored, what are the implications of her receiving buffs in the future, especially to legendaries like Lifelike, and turn some of the questions onto you, the audience, as to if this is something that you agree with, or if you think that there is no logic involved and that she should be buffed, she should have been buffed, and needs a buff next patch. So without further ado, let's get started. Ying, as it stands right now, is a very strong healer statistically in all of Paladins. Remember, it was not too long ago when legendaries came out and Lifelike was pretty much the most broken thing in the game, literally doubling the amount of healing she could do and putting her at the top of the charts. That was one of, and maybe will be one of the only moments in Paladins where in the high level esports a healer was the first pick. It was safe to say she was a ridiculous outlier, and thus of course she had the nerfs. The Lifelike nerf making it 60% of her normal healing but able to heal 2 different targets, thus sacrificing the amount of healing for the spread of healing for your overall team. The reduction in one of her cards that allowed her clones to stay out for an additional 12 seconds on the battlefield, instead now moving that to 8 seconds, so essential 30% nerf to that aspect of her kit. And then of course the reduction of healing range from 100 to 85 on her illusions, meaning that she can't heal people from as far away as she used to. This led of course to a riotous yell from Ying fans around the world saying, why do you continuously keep nerfing this support? And then instead of any clear-cut answers in response, essentially Ying was ignored over the next several patches and has yet to receive a significant buff since. Hence most Ying fans scratching their heads. And hence someone right now in the comment section writing buff Lifelike Ying and getting 1,000 upvotes, and every other comment section for every other video I've made in the last 2 months. And even pros are commenting that they would like to see buffs for Ying to bring her back into viability in the high-level competitive scene, which of course is a direct result of her nerfs and the rise of Ceres, her convergence being buffed and becoming a vital tool in team fights, and of course some of her cooldowns being reduced. Before we start talking about Ying buffs and what should happen in the next few patches, which I do want to mention in this video, let's also talk about why Ying might have been nerfed, and get your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below as to whether you think this may be a valid reasoning path. Personally, I don't play a lot of Ying, so it's hard for me to relate to the actual experiences of a player playing this champion, but as a result of my experience playing Paladins and also watching the high-level esports quite rigorously, I feel like I can comment and give you guys some peace of mind as to what's going on. Of course, this is just my opinion, it's conjecture, but I do want to make sure that we just get the conversation rolling and see what you guys have to say. As we all know from the Lifelike stage, when legendaries were introduced, Ying was extremely strong. She was healing more than any other champion by far, which of course one healer will be healing above any other healer. I mean, that's just the nature of having numbers, right? One number will be higher than the other. So why was it a problem that Ying was reaching that high number? Here's my personal opinion. Imagine if a Victor was actually playing and every single game got most damage, most kills, and just was the most OP champion in the game. Every casual game, every esport game, Victor was the best. Put him in the right hands, there's nobody better to play than a Victor. Kind of weird, right? Why is it that we feel that it's weird that Victor should not be the best player in the game? That we feel like a Victor shouldn't be the most high skill cap, shouldn't be the most rewarded champion for doing what he does? I'll let you guys think about that. But my thought, actually, is that it's because Victor's really simple. Think about that for a second. Victor is easy to use in a simple, straightforward champion. Spray and pray. But as much as Victor is a fun and valuable champion that needs to be in the Paladins roster, I think everyone kind of inherently agrees that he shouldn't be the best, most capable champion in the game. A really good Eevee or a really good Bomb King should be able to beat a Victor. And the reason for that is because they are high skill cap champions. And although I'm speaking for more than just myself here, and I'll just say this is my personal opinion, but I think it does apply to more than just me, people believe that high skill cap champions should be able to succeed in scenarios when they are the better players than somebody like a Victor. If you put Stolzy, Cuss Cutie, Prince Danny, all of these guys who are incredibly talented technical mastercraft damage players on a Victor and you put them on an Eevee and have them verse each other, you would hope that the Eevee version of those players would obviously beat the Victor version. And it's because those champions are more complicated, they could do more things, and they can also make more mistakes, which is why they shine so much in the hands of very skilled players. If Victor is the best champion and in the best hands is unbeatable, then that's not very fun and it doesn't promote a very high skill ceiling, which is where my analogy for Ying comes into play. When you compare the relative skill levels needed to master Maldamba and Ying, I believe that Maldamba has harder to master mechanics than Ying does. heals. Why? Because every bit of healing that he does has to be done by him. It has to be aimed by the player. Every bit of healing Ying does is literally done by an automated clone. All you do is press Q and your clones heal. All you do is press E and your ultimate heals everyone, anywhere that they are. Although Ying has one of the most difficult movement skills to master in Dimensional Link, which I think raises the skill cap tremendously for average players. When it comes to raw healing mechanics, Maldamba has to do more to be just as effective. And I'm not saying that Ying placing her clones in the right way doesn't take skill and practice and timing. I'm just saying that once you just deploy them in the right area, there is no other skill involved. The amount of choices Ying has to make versus a Maldamba player is significantly less. And although this doesn't diminish the value Ying can bring to a team, it does, I think, set a precedent for who should be a better healer overall. If Cutie, Bird, and Gera, three of the best healers and paladins in the world, went together and actually had to play a game of Maldamba and Ying versus one another and had the same exact team comps facing up, we would assume that the Maldamba would be able to, with these masterclass players, outperform the Ying. This is in a vacuum. Some Yings work better in certain team comps, such as with Barrack because they create a deployable nightmare, and Maldamba works better with certain team comps because he's such a good pocket healer. And he also brings disruption with his ultimate, which is something Ying doesn't do. So there's a lot of different factors, but in a vacuum, you would assume that Maldamba would be able to out-heal a Ying, with the best of the best playing both of them. Now, why do I think that? And maybe why do some of you think that inherently as well? Despite wanting buffs and viability for Ying, because she's a fun champion, she's a great champion, and we love her in this game. She's got a huge fan base. I think we can all kind of agree that somebody throwing a clone out, pressing Q, and having that heal up all the targets without Ying even deciding who to heal is not as impressive as a Maldamba simultaneously fighting, throwing a gourd down, turning around 180, hitting a hit scan heal from far away, and keeping all of those members alive with the amount of mechanical skill and awareness that takes. There are many circumstances where an average level player can still do the exact same thing that a great player did on Ying, whereas an average level player could not do the exact same thing that a great player on Maldamba could do. And thus, maybe in a vacuum, Ying should not be a better healer than Maldamba. Maybe she shouldn't even be a better healer than Seris. And maybe some of that healing was taken away from her. Some of her utility in terms of being able to heal as effectively was reduced so that the other champions could shine in the role they were intended to at the highest of levels. Or maybe Ying was just healing way too much and people didn't realize how much she was still healing, how viable she actually still is. It would not be the first time that people in Paladins were confused or misinformed about somebody not being good when they actually were good and were statistically overperforming. Whatever the reasoning is, I do think that there's some logic and some sound logic in the fact that the higher skill cap champions such as Maldamba should be at the highest level of play in the Paladins esports, better healers, more consistently prioritized, and more consistently valuable to a team when performing at their highest level. And that also means that they should be a little riskier. So if you don't have a great game, a Ying will be a lot more consistent in her performances and get the same amount of healing much more often than a Maldamba, who may spike up, may spike down, depending on how that player is performing that day. And though we are talking about healing here, because the classes support, there are a lot of other things that Maldamba and Ying bring to the table. With Focusing Lens, Ying actually brings quite a bit of DPS from her in-hand, and also with Resonance, which is a very winning legendary, actually one of the most winning legendaries in the game, actually. I think it's number 2. She brings a lot of objective presence that people do not give her credit for. It's not just about the healing, she could do some serious damage, and burst damage at that, which is very different from Seris and Maldamba, the considered 1 and 2 healers at the moment. Hold on, don't you forget about Grover and Pip now. Oh yeah, they are doing really well, and I think the entire healer balance is set to shift. Heading into the next patches, I think it is interesting to have a discussion to end this video about what should happen to Ying. Should she be buffed? Should she stay the same? Should she get nerfed again? I'm laughing, you guys. Don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. I'm just kidding. The truth is, because we don't have stats here, we have to understand that these decisions have been made for a reason. Why? Well, here's some logic, maybe some thought processes that I've had on my own, and maybe they make sense to you. Maybe they don't. Let me know in the comment section below. But I think the summary of the idea is that there should be checks and balances for what a champion should be able to do. Although Grover isn't the best example of a strong, coherent design, because he can do so much damage, he probably shouldn't be able to heal more than everyone else. And because Maldamba is so high skill cap and so many decisions to make on the battlefield, played by the best players, he should probably have the highest level performance. The idea of checks and balances in champion design, I think, is interesting and important, because if you have somebody take away a check and they become unbalanced, there's literally no way to bring other healers in line with them. If Ying does not have the check of having less healing than Maldamba, then Ying will always be the #1 pick, as we saw with Lifelike. When her healing was out of the roof, everyone had to have Ying, and it was almost like a guaranteed win or a guaranteed extreme advantage in winning. The idea to buff Lifelike again goes a little clunk for me because I did see how strong that was and how unbalanced that made the entire scope of healing in Paladins. But I don't think it's out of the question. Maybe a little bump here could be cool, maybe from 60 to 70%. Or an idea I've had is actually to buff Resonance even more, or buff Focusing Lens, allowing her to do more damage and fulfill a role that's different from the other champions. Because she maybe can't surpass Seris or Maldamba and healing in raw numbers, maybe she can have a little bit more damage that she brings to the table. So players and teams can make the decision, hey, we'll take a little bit less but more guaranteed healing rather than maybe the spiky, awesome, or horrible healing that Maldamba can bring if he has a great or bad game, and also take a little bit more guaranteed damage. The other option is to rework Lifelike completely, because of course if it gets too strong it's OP, and if it's not strong enough then it's not very good. We've seen kind of both sides of the spectrum lately, and so maybe it just requires a rework. A lot of legendaries have become reworked over the last few patches, so this could be a great opportunity to do it here. Overall, I want you all to know that I am with you on giving Ying some love. I think champions should always see a little bit of love, a little bit of adjustment over a few patches, shouldn't go completely ignored for too long. But if the case was that Ying was kind of being egregious in terms of her healing numbers for what her role, what her design was intended to do, I do think it's important that she does not overtake the potential top spot when she isn't the most high skill cap and shouldn't be the most highest rewarding champion in terms of just raw healing numbers. There's a lot more that Ying can do and bring to the battlefield, including damage, including objective control with Resonance, and so hey, I don't think it's all bad for her, and I think she's still a very decent pick if you want to grab her up. But with Maldamba and Seris being favored by the best healer players in the world, it's hard for her to get the light of day. Yet with bans being introduced, maybe we will see Ying, and we have started to see Ying, jump back into the meta just because she is maybe a third, fourth best pick that really can see some viability now when Maldamba or Seris get banned away. All in all, guys, let me know your thoughts. I know it's a bit of a contentious topic. I know people really love Ying, and I'm trying to give my best kind of awareness to the topic, catch people up in the state of the realm kind of address. This is the first type of video for this series, and so maybe you guys can give me some tips on what you'd like to see. I wanted to start back with kind of where they've been, why they got there, what their state of the game is now, and where they could go. Kind of addressing more of the hot topics, more of the kind of interesting like requests from community members about certain champions that they feel have been neglected. I think Sky may be a good one to do this with next, so give me a thumbs up if you liked the video. Let me know in the comment section below what you'd like to see next, and of course subscribe to stay tuned to all of my content here at Raynday Gaming. At the time this video releases, I'll probably be in either Spain or Italy, so if you're in one of those countries, let me know. Maybe we'll bump into each other. Maybe you'll just tell me some cool places to eat or hang out at night. Either way, I hope to see you guys when I get back into the USA really soon. And of course, remember to never give up, never stop gaming, and I'll see you all next time.